So this is a video from Mike about stuff he's most excited for.
Did you see that live letter?
Are you sure? What? I'm like, did the video start? Like, is it working? Because it's completely silent, too.
Did you see that live letter?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Friday was utterly ridiculous. I have seen many live letters now, but this
He got us good. He got me real good with this.
could have been an expansion. This could have easily been an announcement of expansion features. 3.5 hours long of just feature after feature after feature after feature.
Yes.
I thought it was worth
jam-packed with features.
sitting down to go through what I'm most excited
And
about
bread.
6.2 because god damn, man, I made a lot of WoW players watch it. I did. I was streaming
Really?
Dragonflight Alpha through that, and then the live letter was started. I was like, okay, we're stopping, live letter time, let's
You
strap
made them
in, let's
watch
get in.
it?
And obviously a lot of people are like, what the fuck is a live letter? What are you talking about? I was like, this is how FF14 handles their patch notes and stuff. I said, even if you're not into this game, even if you have no interest in Final Fantasy 14 and you only play WoW, it's worth watching this to just see how
watch
the
it.
devs
Just watch it.
communicate.
You don't have to play Final Fantasy 14 yet. I mean, play Final Fantasy 14 to watch the live letter and just appreciate how interesting and cool everything looks and how cool and like communicative the devs are. Like, just for you to think about it. Like, I'm not telling you that you will play it, but you will be thinking about it. And it'll be in your mind. And you could download the trial. It's free. And it includes the critically acclaimed expansion, Heavensward, with no limits on playtime, all the way up to level 60.
With the audience and how they like literally like when people saw Yoshi
Just
P
take a look.
play
Just
the
take a
game,
look.
they're like, oh shit, like the devs just play the game. Like, yeah, that's what they do. It was extraordinary, and it was magnificent to see that they have an almost earned righteousness about 6.2 is that they kept a lot of stuff
That's
secret.
what I
They're
said
like, oh
too.
yeah, and this
That's what I said too when I was watching the live letter. It was so funny how whenever Yoshi P showed the trailer, he was like so confident that this patch is great. It's like quality stuff in here. That he made comments like, "Oh yeah, it's an amazing music track to the trailer as well as always." And he also was like, when they showed Island Sanctuary, he was like, this piece is like very well designed. It's very well made. He's just like beaming, like watching his creation. You could just see he's so proud of what they've made and like happy to show it to the players. There's no like questions like, are they going to like this or not? Like they know it's good. They know it
is going to be here, and they had a little giggle between
like,
Yoshi P and Marble as they were like, yeah, and there's that,
Pretty
and we're not
good.
going to tell you anything. I think the most prevalent example with that would be the new trial that's coming, which is, again, for our WoW audience, this is the individual raid bosses that you get. So they're like, think of it like Onyxia, where they're on their own. And you get loads of those in Final Fantasy 14, loads of them. There's a new one coming, which has like a normal mode, which is going to be part of the story, and then they have the extreme version, which is kind of like somewhere between normal and heroic WoW boss, and usually really, really fun. I've just recently completed every single one of them in the game, and it's been a wonderful journey.
I found the quote. I found the quote. The Yoshi P was saying whenever he was watching the patch 6.2 trailer video, which if you haven't seen, that's on the official Final Fantasy 14 YouTube right now. But Yoshi P was like, yeah, he said this part is really well made. Obviously, Island Sanctuary, and these here are the dungeons with amazing music as always. And Morble's like, yeah, it's like a movie trailer, and they're just like, yeah, it is. It's gonna be great. Okay.
And they're just like, yeah, it's a secret. It's a secret. Like,
he's talking about the trial. So we are not going to be getting Savage with the release of the patch tomorrow. Savage is going to come next Tuesday, 1 week later, so that World First and Week 1 Raiders will be able to spend this week enjoying the patch and doing Island Sanctuary stuff like story for the raid and all that. But we will be able to jump straight into the Extreme trial, the new extreme trial, whatever it is. And so that's going to be the hard content that we will have access to. Not as hard as Savage, but it's going to be something to keep you busy if you like challenging yourself from now until next week.
Not going to tell you. And data mining. I know, again, to our WoW guys, data mining is a commonplace thing in World of Warcraft. Like, as soon as a new patch comes out, Wowhead runs a stream where they dig into the files and find everything. Data mining obviously does happen, but it is so frowned upon by the community, and it is really against the devs. They do not allow it in any circumstance.
It's because of the fact that it's a story-based game. It's okay to leak stuff in WoW and, like, leak and data mine upcoming content. And even I've seen on Wowhead, they will data mine upcoming cutscenes and like story events and story text. And everybody talks about it and share because people just don't seem to give a shit. But in this game, because it is so story-based, if somebody were to data mine the identity of a boss, that would be devastating to your appreciation of the story. That's a spoiler. That's an actual spoiler for what's going to happen in the story. And so because the story is actually good, people care about it.
And there's been recent controversies about that with people finding these files and making them public. Like, that is not something that's done in FF14. No data mining, nothing like that. It obviously takes place, but not public, not broadcast or anything like that.
Yeah, we police it too. Content creators tend to police this shit in our Discord servers. Like, if somebody tries to share a leak or a data mine in a Discord server, it's going to get removed by mods in pretty much anybody's Discord.
Keeping the boss secret, and they just was like, yeah, we even made a little screenshot of you that just says we don't know what it is, and you'll find out on the day, because they're so protective, and rightfully so, of their story, which is a huge part of FF14.
Everything is linked to the story, like the dungeon, the trial, It's a really good pause. I did. Oh.
The boss is going to be story related. I personally think it's going to be Golbez or something like that. I think they're going to put a plot twist on the.
Who y'all think it's going to be? Actually, I can't say. I can't even speculate who I think it's going to be because it's going to be a spoiler if I even say. So never mind.
Black Knight, if you've not played Final Fantasy IV, that's going to be in there. I don't know, though.
I don't think it's Golbez.
Hard to say. We did think it was going to be one of the throne elements,
it's not going to be that either.
But now we see that's in a dungeon boss. We saw that as well. Okay, so let's jump into this. Obviously, this was huge. I do want to talk about the island sanctuaries because we're going to lose.
How can I phrase this? I think it's going to be... No, there's no way that I could phrase it. Okay. I think it might be a character that we have been looking for. That's all I'll say. And maybe it'll be some kind of a test. All right.
So many players to this. And they gave us a good preview. And the word that was flying around everywhere is just how cozy this thing is. How cozy. And it had such high expectations on it. High expectations about what was going to be in the island sanctuaries. And some people were still a little miffed that it's not going to be like proper player housing, which they never said it would be. You do get to build.
Yeah, some of us did like imagine stuff that they didn't say it was going to be and then got mad that it wasn't what we imagined. Even though they never said that.
Your own home on your island, as every individual person does get an island. And Jesus Christ, the sheer scale of this thing is massive. One thing I was looking for...
God, him showing us footage again, I'm realizing just how giant.
Going through is like, what is there to do as Yoshi P played through?
Even though it's kind of hard to tell, because there's no Rogadin in the screen for scale. Like, with a Lalavel, isn't this what every... Like, won't any place look giant if you're on a Lalavel?
And was like, okay, I'm going to give you an idea of what this is.
Where's the Rogadin?
There is going to be some time gating involved. We're not looking for you to get real sweaty with this thing. We don't want you spending like 12, 14 hours a day here.
I will try.
Okay.
I'm going to actually try.
Judging by my audience is like, some people are going to be lost to this for all time.
We're going to find a way
It's a place to go when you're waiting for your
it.
dungeon queues, and you've always got something to do there, and you can go and get your animals and feed them. Basically, you know, you get your own little world that you can farm your crops, water them. A lot of menus.
A lot
of menus. You've got to change your mode from planting crops to watering the crops, and then go and find your...
Is Mike excited about Island Sanctuary? Is he excited about this? Does he want to do it? Because usually he's not that into like cutesy stuff.
animals. I just know
feel
there's
like
going to
he
be some
probably
super rare stuff in there.
Isn't quite up his alley.
It's going to drag. People are lost there already. Like, this is exactly what people were hoping it would be.
But what about
they wanted
you,
that
Mike?
Animal Crossing vibe. They wanted that Stardew Valley vibe.
He's like, they
where
wanted
they can just chill and relax and just listen to a stream, put
He'll say in
Netflix
a
on,
second.
YouTube,
Yeah, I'm
whatever
sure
it
he
might
will.
be, and just get on with their day of hunting and gathering and then building up their little sanctuaries and making them perfect. So I was so glad for that because the expectations were so goddamn high. I still don't know if I'll like it as much as I'm kind of interested in seeing it. It's absolutely not what I'm most interested in when it comes to 6.2 and 6.2.5, which I'll have to mention. But to see the sheer amount of stuff that people are going to get to play with.
He might be surprised because, like, never in a million years would I have imagined that he would enjoy, like, clubbing with cat girls in casinos and dance studios in the game in roleplay. But he loves that. So maybe this game is full of surprises for you, Mike.
Then craft and then customize. It's just a
Who
palette.
knows?
It's a world you can mess around in. And then
Watch him get lost in this shit.
once again, they made the point of this isn't a one and done thing. This is going to be, we expect to expand on this thing every couple of patches, essentially. We want to just make sure it keeps growing. We have full roadmap. We have a full timeline. We know what we want to add to this as we keep going. What we're going to get in 6.2 is going to be the very bare bones version of this system, and then it's going to just expand, because they fully expect people to love this thing. They fully expect to keep going with it, and we talked a little bit about what exactly features of the game have been abandoned in Final Fantasy XIV, and some people pointed out a few.
What's been abandoned? There's some things that feel like they could get updates, like grand companies, like free companies, like fellowships. Like, Fellowships is definitely a completely abandoned feature. Lord of Verminion. Well, actually, no. Lord of Verminion is not abandoned. I take it back. I take that back. Because I noticed that with every new minion they add, each minion has its own special abilities and stats and everything. So every time they add a new minion, they are updating that shit. So I take that back. Squadron. But I think Squadron is going to get sort of like put out to pasture. Aren't they? Don't they want to not update Squadron anymore because they have duty support now? Company airships leaves transition into being for crafting. Like crafting leaves are still like super useful. Okay.
Like squadrons, etc., things like that haven't
Squadron
really
are the
gone
prototypes
anywhere
for duty
since.
support, yeah.
But for the most part, I have a lot of faith that when Square Enix introduces something new, certainly in the modern era, it's not for a single expansion. It's for all time. They're looking to make sure it's evergreen, which is a big focus of Final Fantasy XIV, is to make sure, okay, we're introducing this thing.
Like, what did we talk about earlier? We talked about Deep Dungeon and people that spend all day, every day in Palace of the Dead, which it came out in Heaven's Ward. I personally spend a ton of my free time in Palace of the Dead, which is old content, but it is evergreen content. There's people that spend all the time in Eureka, which is released in Stormblood, but people spend a ton of time in there, or in Baja. That was like they will add something as an expansion feature, but they'll add it in such a way that it doesn't become obsolete. Like, it is something that you can usually go back and keep doing. So in the case of Island Sanctuary, well, since it's not tied to the battle system at all, since there's not like leveling up in it, I feel like it is definitely something they can keep adding more and more rewards to over time. And we know that they're going to be adding a new zone to it later in this expansion. I mean, a new area could be a new zone. It's kind of vague what new area means.
Baby steps, fix things you don't like, and then we'll keep updating it and try and get it into a place that you love. And that was a theme throughout this whole thing, is like, please God, give us feedback on this, because there's a number of changes coming, such as delaying Savage raiding for a week. Wonderful change. I saw this effect happening in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, there's nobody
universally praised.
Yeah,
especially when
everybody
you've got
wants
so much content coming, so much rich, interesting story, so much development, is that players who are dedicated raiders and they want to be
It's
part of
Giga
their
Carby.
team and their team.
Yeah, that's in case you missed the live later. This is a carbuncle that we're gonna fight. Giga Carby.
Team is going day one, but they still want to enjoy that story. They still want to drink it in. They still want to be immersed. They want to know what's going on. They don't have to go back and replay it at some point, and they don't want to be a skipper and skip through it so that they can be ready.
Somebody fed their carbuncle after midnight.
The raid immediately. And so this is a good change, but obviously this is a very different audience. So maybe it won't work in Final Fantasy XIV. And they're ready for that. And they're like, okay, let us know. Maybe you guys just don't like this. Maybe you'd prefer to just get going from the start, especially with the gearing changing, because you're going to have more gear.
It's like so refreshing to hear Mike talk about this game because he continues to be amazed by stuff that I often feel like I take for granted. Like, we're so spoiled at this point because he's like, wow, so they're going to try to change the way that they release Savage, but they're asking everyone for their feedback, and they're going to really pay attention to what people say about it. And they're ESP like went on the live letter and specifically said, please tell us what you think. Does this feel good? Does this feel bad? We're going to experiment with it, and we're going to listen to you, and then we're going to make adjustments based on what you like. Like, him coming from WoW, like, he's like, what? So we are sort of working in this collaborative way with the devs where they're constantly in tune with how players really feel and change the game based on those feelings instead of just forcing down the player's throat whatever they think is the best way. Now, I think with Dragonflight, we have seen some changes in the different directions.
Yes, just so.
And sort of like, it takes a bit of humility, I feel, to admit to your players, to admit to yourself that maybe you don't always have all of the right answers. And sometimes you do. Sometimes as a dev, like, you have to decide what's actually best instead of what players want. But in the case of Final Fantasy 14, it always feels more like a conversation instead of like being dictated to, right? Even in cases where they decide not to do what players want.
Here going into Savage.
Thank you.
But we think we've got it right. When we saw that proto carbuncle come flying down out of the sky, and we should be just teasing it a little bit to see what it would do, show you the first mechanic. It's like, okay, so you won't wipe to the first mechanic, but what happens next is going to be entirely up to you, and you'll have to see what's going on. But it was great, and of course, instantly the summoners were like, can we get Proto Carbuncle? They actually gave a lore reason for this. It's like, even if you could summon this thing, you'd never be able to control it, so it'd be a bad idea. To which all the Giga Chad summoners were like, well, I could do it. I'm strong enough. I could get it done. The Island Sentries are...
I don't remember them saying that. I must have...
never been into those kind of games. Those simple, cozy farmers. I'm usually much more interested in some sort of action, something that keeps me mentally engaged. I don't really have a lot of time to just chill, but I'm going to try it.
Wait,
and who knows?
Did Mike say he has no chill?
Maybe it'll be just like FF14, because I didn't think I'd enjoy this game either. And here we are today. We're like, oh, fuck me. This is great. I do want to put out a personal grievance, is that I hoped and prayed, much to the chagrin of the many thousands of people who joined us for the live letter, when they revealed the cafe at the end of the universe that we're going to be updating with the new tribal quest lines. I was like, please don't be a good mount, because it's based on gathering. And I haven't done my professions yet. I know. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely, I'm getting there. But it's a whole MMO. There's a lot of fucking pieces for me to uncover. And my next goal is every role quest, which we're only a couple of levels away from being able to do everything.
Does he have to do gathering now? No way. Is he gonna go into Diadem? Is he gonna be working on his Skyward Sword? Skyward Sword?
Single one. And I was like, please don't be a good mount. Please don't. And then Jelly Belly came out. And I was like, mother. God damn it, dude.
It's so cool.
Jelly Belly looks awesome.
It's awesome.
It looks so
It's so cool.
It's so goofy and so
That's one of the coolest mounts I've ever seen.
I was like, oh, God. So I've got to level my professions. That has to happen now. It's going to happen.
You got to get it yourself so you won't be jelly of other people's.
Sweet Moses. Sweet Moses. So, I'm glossing over, just like they did, new MSQ, Tataru, Hildebrand, that's 65, all that stuff, and they glossed over it as well. The new
come on,
Unreal and
come
Sephiroth. I was expecting them to say something like, "Oh, you kind of considered the previous Unreal a little too easy. Ultima was a little too easy, so maybe we'll make it a bit more difficult." But they didn't. They're just like, "Yeah, Sephiroth's coming back." And then there was like an off-the-cuff comment by Yoshi P. where he's like,
Sephiroth better let you die and stay dead if you fall off the platform. If you fall off the platform with Sephiroth Unreal, you should die. And that ad damage better hit like a truck.
remember when he first came out and people were like, "This is really, really hard. This is really, really hard."
Hard, yeah.
I remember. Mm-hmm.
I do remember that.
So
yeah.
I think it's going to be quite a bit more difficult than the current one, but we'll wait and see on that. We'll wait and see. But I want to get to the most... this thing
it's not going to be hard for Mike, though.
It's packed. Like I said, 3.5 hours
He's good at
of
the game.
new features, and they were just smashing them out. He's doing some of the most badass weapons that I've ever seen. And some really interesting stuff. The trailer showed off the memory crystal, kind of pulling maybe a little Doctor Who thing.
Oh my god, but everybody has to do the Unreal Trial, because the Unreal Trial is where you get the flying squirrel minion. I couldn't find the normal screenshot. That's the only one I could find. But like that, but smaller. So that's why you have to do Sephiroth. Okay, anyway.
Maybe you follow Doctor Who's with the stopwatches. If you understand what I'm talking about, you'll get what I'm saying. With the memory crystals as to who the reveal of what's been buried inside there. The title is, of course, Buried Memories.
Buried Memories.
And La Habrea. Oh, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. But they just glossed over that stuff. They were like, that's not the big deal. What my biggest,
they can't talk about
biggest
that
exciting thing is actually the new variable dungeons, the Criterion dungeons, and, of course, the new Savage dungeons.
Estinian.
This is going to be huge in the next couple of...
But that's not... So he's psyched about the content that's coming in 2 months from now?
Patches.
Well, also the trial, I
it's
bet.
Like, absolutely the biggest thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be
The reveal
good.
of Nanamo as the person who's going to be guiding you through these dungeons was fantastic. I really love what they're doing with the character development of Nanamo. Now, she's broke away from Raban for quite some time. She's come into her own, and now she's going to be taking on these expeditions.
Such character development from Mike, too. I remember when he first started playing and he was like, Lalafels. And now he's like, love the character development from Nanamo and seeing how she's coming into her own. Like, really, this is growth.
Into this weird, wonderful, constantly changing environment, which we now know has 12 different endings that are going to come from
He's still that way. Oh, but he made an exception for Nanamo because she's so cool.
them. So we saw the doors, where you'll get to choose. And so it's likely 3, 2, 2. The guys in the chat were doing the quick math. It's like you'll get 3 and then a choice of 2 and a choice of 2.
We need this hairstyle, by the way.
To get to the 12 possible endings that come.
Please give us this hairstyle.
I just know that when I dive into this content, that my entire day is going to be just exploring this thing. I absolutely know.
It's gonna
I'm
be
going
great.
in as blind as possible. I always play the patch a week after. Very different to my usual approach for any other game, which is like, let's jump in and see what's going on. But I always play a week after because people want to take their time to enjoy the story and certainly don't want to be spoiled or live vicariously through me playing it. So we delay it a week.
Wait, does he wait a whole week to do the main story? Oh my god. I mean, it's a good idea. Because earlier today, I was like, damn, I should probably not stream the story right away. Like, I should wait a little longer. Because I normally do it straight away. Like, for the last patch, I did it straight away. And this time I was like, well, last time I tried to do the story straight away, everybody was in the chat like, hey, I can't watch the stream right now because I don't want to get spoiled. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that to them this time. This time I'll wait a little bit longer to the story. Maybe I'll wait like a day. Maybe I'll wait like a whole day. But Mike's over here, I'll just put that off the next week. A whole week? I can't go a whole week without doing story. Are you crazy? How are you not going to get spoiled? How am I going to be on Twitter? I live on Final Fantasy 14 Twitter. I can't. Oh my god. I will be dying not doing the story for a whole day. 2 days is like me really, really holding out for you guys.
But when that comes out, and we've had a number of people who've agreed to not check into the system until we're ready to play it, And it's not going to have my whole day there. I don't care that it's easy. And that's a big change that's happened in my life over the course of playing FF14 is the difficulty, I'm not bothered. Whereas in a game with, like, that I enjoy the challenge for, like, certainly for WoW stuff, if it was like, it's just dead easy, the story wouldn't be good enough for me to care about doing it on the easy mode. I try and get through it as quickly as humanly possible and then move on to that.
That's why I was a little bit surprised that he's so excited about the variant, because it's easy mode.
The more difficult challenge, I'll just move on to something else. In this, I don't give a shit about the difficulty. I want to know the endings.
This is different because the story is actually good. So you're engaged with the content and the lore because that's what it was designed to do.
It's been such a dramatic change in my perception. And one thing I've been looking for in the Dragonflight Alpha videos, you've been watching those, is I've been commenting on the story. And, like, what's the story doing? Where's it taking us? Because I have a newfound appreciation for just how good the story can be in MMOs.
Yeah.
Through FF14. Like, I can really start to give a shit about these characters. I can really get engaged with it. And if I am engaged with it, I have such a good time.
It's so
hard. I'm now at the point where it's like, oh, the really easy mode is actually just going to be a bunch of story stuff with Nanamo and then 12 various endings. We saw Lolorito was exposed. Great. I'm like, excellent. That's great. That's exactly what I want, and I can't wait for that.
Me too.
Yes, I want the difficult stuff as well. And this has been an interesting point. We're going to do a separate video on this.
And that's how you're going to get the hamster mount. In case you didn't see that?
Yoshi P brought up something very interesting during the live letter.
Okay.
Actually, it wasn't during the live letter. It was during the interviews that he'd been doing on Japanese gaming websites.
Oh, we talked about it last week.
To the live letter. And he talked about dungeon design. And a big question I always get is, do you think FF14 could do with a system like Mythic Plus? Now, don't start writing. This is just the
Every time people bring up Mythic Plus and FF14, people start molding in the chat. And so, even while recording this video, he has the streamer reflex to mentioning Mythic Plus in connection with FF14 to immediately say, no, but hold up a second, let me explain, because literally every single time I've ever brought it up, there's people who are like, no, Mythic Plus and Argy.
Conversation that's out there. And obviously that alarm bell has been rung by the amount of Westerners going into FF14 who have come from World of Warcraft, is that they're looking for that small-scale player difficult challenge. They're looking for that. It's been something that's been requested across multitudes of games. So that's what
Criterion Dungeon is. Yoshi P heard the request and then decided, how could I make something like that work for my game that would fit my game and not just be shoehorning in something that wouldn't fit into Final Fantasy XIV, and to what players expect from this game, and to the way that we like to design content.
Many years is smaller groups, tight-knit groups, really close friends, looking for very difficult challenges to
really close friends. I feel like you might start the Criterion Dungeon as really close friends, and then you will leave as enemies. Based on how hard it sounds like it's gonna be. It might be a little bit too close.
Overcome. And of course, WoW has Mythic Plus to do that. And you see those groups that are very tight.
It's a friends to enemies to lovers arc from the beginning to the end of the dungeon.
And a community forming around doing very difficult content inside the dungeon space. And FF14 doesn't offer that until now. So, very briefly, without going into what I would put into a properly researched video that we're working on right now, it's like, no, not really, because the current FF14 dungeons don't accommodate that style of play.
Yeah.
And just adding, say, difficulty modifiers, affixes, or whatever, if you were trying to just copy-paste like a WoW system onto it, it just wouldn't work.
No.
Those dungeons are designed to be small-scale engagements, and then usually some sort of environmental barrier or something changes, which allows you to move forward, and it fits with a story and a thematic theme. And obviously, FF14 dungeons are far more designed to tell a story than they are to be, and certainly in the normal mode, even the upper version.
Look, if you want an affix in your dungeon, just invite me in there. Invite me to heal you, and I will be your affix.
Than anything else. They're not designed to be a massive wall, right? They have that in some of the 4-player extreme trials and things like that, but players thirst after that kind of content, and they're aware of that, which is why you're now getting the Savage Dungeons. And the clever way that they're just making it into a new system. Because it doesn't retrofit onto the previous dungeons right now. They could do it, but it might mess with the other dungeons. And we've seen the effect of that in WoW. And a great example, if you didn't see my Dragonflight video looking at the new Alderman, which is a level, previously was a level 50 dungeon in class.
Oh, that was the one where he talked about, what did he say? He said, spewing my green justice on the party. What do I feel like when I said that? The expression that he has in the video where I paused it is like exactly the expression. It was appropriate for me remembering that specific part of his video. Do I remember anything else?
World of Warcraft, and is now coming back in Dragonflight for the modern era.
The Green Justice.
It has less going on in the new version than it did in the version 15 years ago. 15 years ago, they had all these cool RP moments that I very much have in my memory from all those years ago, of the door lighting up and the giant maiden walking through these doors.
Oh,
He crafted a staff and stuck it into
the Indiana Jones bullshit.
A little model of the city. And then
oh my god. It's a flashback. I haven't thought about that in so long. Yeah, and then like me trying to get to the goddamn enchanting trainer. God, I hated that dungeon. Suddenly, good memories, and then suddenly I remember all the pain too.
Unlocked the door. The final boss, Arcadus, was fused into stone until you broke it out, and then it
was the worst, because I'm like, hey guys, I actually need to go this other way because I'm an enchanter, and everyone's like, no. No, you don't. You don't really need that.
And I am Arcadus. And then this giant monolith came crushing towards you. That was great. The new version has none of that because it's designed with this Mythic Plus speedrun style in mind, and therefore all that flavor has been taken away.
Oh my god.
And I was really sad about that.
Those goddamn scorpions. There's so many. There's so many.
I was like, wow, the version 15 years ago had way more immersive things and interesting things happening than the new version. And that kind of sucks. And you don't really want that for FF14 either. So they've taken the approach of like, yeah, that doesn't work. So we're just going to make brand new style of dungeon that will separate off from the normal dungeons that you used to, because we're still getting Troya as a normal style of dungeon in this patch. But now you're getting this style of dungeon as well, which works with this idea. Where it's going to be a set route. Coming back to my original point.
It's nice because it's a new experimental feature.
No, it's a very linear route. And the reason we're going to do that is because if we make it very non-linear, people just find the best route very quickly, and that just becomes the route. And our entire effort of making some sort of non-linear open space dungeon is very quickly wasted because players work for efficiency, and that'll just become the way. And everything else we put into it is sometimes it even gets annoying if we force you to go into different ways. And I think
it's such a nice thing that Yoshi P understands that concept. What he just said, that Yoshi P described to the player, like to us at the live letter, as to why the dungeon is linear, because players will go for the meta route, the most efficient route. So I remembered suddenly as he was explaining, Yoshi P saying that, the time when Mike interviewed Ian in BFA. And he was like, Mike was trying to explain to Ian that concept about talents and like all the different choices that people can make with all the little different specializations they can be. He was like, yeah, but people are eventually going to try to pick the meta. I remember they have a whole conversation
about some of the early FF14.
So of course, that's something that would stick out
dungeons,
for Mike.
Where they do expect you to kind of go off the beaten track a little bit to speak to an NPC who will run down and open a gate for you. And then you have to circle up to a place to talk to another NPC, then come back down. And after you've done it 3 or 4 times, it's very frustrating. Trial of the Crusader would be the same in World of Warcraft, where they had all this pageantry and all this kind of role play going on. And people were pissed First time, sure, this is kind of cool. Second time, dude, this is just killing my soul. Like, I don't like this stuff. And that's their design philosophy in FF14, which I had noticed before. And we're going to do a little deep dive on that.
Well, that's why they split it off. That's why they split it off into Variant Dungeon and Criterion Dungeon. So for all of that, you know, different pathways and lore and roleplay and all that shit, you can get all of that done in the Variant Dungeon when you feel like doing that. And then when you want to actually get things done and be efficient and game, you can do that in the Criterion version of the dungeon.
A little bit more, but all these different versions, from the casual to the hardcore, they did say the Savage versions are designed for the people who are clearing the Savage raid very effectively. You need a relatively high
Savage
level, or they expect to. I'm still going to try it.
You need Savage Biss
anyway,
for Criterion.
I'm starting to work through the Savage.
For Ass Savage.
From A Realm Reborn. Get ready for that stuff. That's going to be coming. Yes, that is coming. That's who this stuff is designed for. So it's going to be very interesting to see how difficult it is, especially with a killer mouse waiting for you as you go through the door and go in. And of course, an in-between version for people just to enjoy as an extra dungeon and go through. But it's very linear. It's a set route, set pathways. It's designed with this in mind. And again, please God, give us feedback. But this is the features I'm most excited for. Absolutely cannot wait for these dungeons. I'm already planning my first day. It's probably not even going to be MSQ. It's, I think it comes for 625. Whenever the content comes out for these dungeons, that's my whole day.
Yeah, but what are you going to do tomorrow?
I want to go completely blind. I want to explore
probably
all 12 endings, then try the difficult version, then try the Savage version, and just mess around in this system and dig and poke and see what's hidden inside there, because they're making it very clear. It's like there's going to be some cool stuff lurking.
He's going to be farming this Extreme Trial so quick. How long do y'all think it's going to take Mike to start farming the Extreme Trial tomorrow? I'm going to guess, like, within 6 hours, he's going to be farming the Extreme Trial already. Oh, wait, it's main story. Right, it's not separate. Oh, never mind. Okay, so you can't farm the Extreme Trial until you've done the story. Oh, so he's going to be in Island Sanctuary. He's probably going to do I predict he's going to go do the normal raid and clear it. And then after that, he's going to be in Island Sanctuary. He's going to be stuck in Island Sanctuary. I'm waiting. Yeah, because he said he wanted to wait a week, right? Until he does the story, main story. He's going to be... God. I would like to watch Mike tend his garden and plant little seeds and water the seeds and like pat down the soil. And I want to see him like go into the forest and collect cute little minions and name them and feed them. Oh, it's gonna be so much fun. Dachu's Grand Adventure. Yeah.
Within. Ultimately, this whole experience of 6.2 coming, and again, we've glossed over Tataru's Grand Endeavor, the Hildy stuff that'll be coming in 625, although the teaser of that just looks ridiculous. Loporitz meets Hildy. God damn, that's going to be a thing. It was just amazing. Right. I'd love to see what your favorite thing is. And I imagine for most of you, it's Island Sanctuary.
Island Sanctuary. Oh my God, I can't wait.
Do you think I'm going to like it?
That's what we were talking about. That's what we were talking about. Because he knows. It's going to be such a meme to watch him do that.
I don't know, man.
You're going to like it.
Thank you so much for listening, guys.
You're going to like it.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, you will. For sure. You're going to love it. Okay, anyway, here's the link to the video. It was very fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, here's drop a like on there. He's gonna love it. Mike getting forced into stuff he loves in the end is funny. It is. It's objectively funny.